is only war.
What is up, gents? 40k Dirtbags here. We got another video for you guys today. We're doing a tactical video for Grey Knights. I've been talking about this for a while now, and I want to get this out to you guys as soon as possible before 10th edition hits, so that we can help out as many Grey Knight players as possible to kind of use the tactics and strategies that we've been using for the past 2 years. So what I've been kind of thinking about is the tactics that really I've been using to get me to the #1 Grey Knight spot in the world last year. So sorry I had to say it, but now you guys know kind of what I have really to kind of discuss about the video. It's going to be a lot of not gotchas, but stuff that you can be doing throughout the game that is going to be putting you at a huge advantage to get you more points, to kind of screen out more, to do secondary missions, which is all about Arks of Omen. And hopefully you guys can be using this before 10th edition comes out. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for clicking on the video. If you guys are new to the channel, it's not all Grey Knights. It's really a 40k channel as a whole. That's why we're called the 40k Dirtbags. So if you guys like 40k, you like the content, you like strategy and kind of getting better at the game, definitely head over to Patreon. Thank you all my Patreons. There's 33 of you guys now. Without any of you guys, there's no way that I could kind of do this channel and buy updated equipment and kind of do everything for you guys to make you guys a lot easier, so you guys can learn a little bit more about the game. But also, if you guys are new, definitely head over to the Discord, because if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, the guys over there are fucking dirtbags. Like, they're so cool to talk to and hang out with. If you have any questions, no negativity, those guys definitely help you out on the channel. If you guys are brand new to 40k, hopefully this definitely helps you out and kind of uses these strategies, not just for 9th edition, but getting into 10th edition as well, because 10th edition is literally right around the corner from the time that I'm posting this video. It's about 6 months away, so there's going to be a lot of GTs, a lot of RTTs during that time. That way you guys can be using this to your advantage to kind of show off to your friends on, like, holy shit, what the hell is a Grey Knight? How the hell can you get across the board that easily? How the hell can you mortal wound my army to death before I even know what the fuck happened? That's what's going to go on this video. So I have a whole list for you guys. I didn't number it. I didn't lay it out to like #1, best thing, #2. It's really just kind of going through everything that's in my head that is going to be on the tabletop that you guys can use to your advantage to get better at the game, to get better at Grey Knights. And it's not just for Grey Knights. It's going to be used for Death Guard. We're going to do a tactical video for Chaos. We're going to do a tactical video for really every army that I've been running, kind of knowing on the back of my hand. Grey Knights just to happen to be the #1 army that I use. I've been playing since the beginning of 9th edition. So stay tuned. I appreciate it. Leave some comments. Let me know how it can improve. And if you guys like the content, let me know in the comments below, because I read the comments every single day and I take that to heart and get better at the YouTube algorithms and aspects of YouTube. So guys, appreciate it. Let's get into it. Okay, guys, so I'm going to try and run through as many tactical stuff as I can think of that involves the Rhino, interceptors, really anything that's going to kind of get you to use the Rhino to your best advantage, especially with Grey Knights. So anytime that I'm running the Rhino, let's just pretend that this is the ruin wall that you guys would be using. Most of the time it's on a 12x12 or a 10x10. This is just for an example. So if you're starting 9 inches away from the center objective, this is about 6 inches, just so you guys can see the gauge. 9 inches will be about to like right about here, which most of the time when you start turn 1 against that circle deployment in the center, you're going to start 9 inches away from the deployment. So anytime that I take my Rhino, I usually stick it either right against the wall if they don't have a crazy threat range turn 1 that I'm afraid of them charging my Rhino, or 1 inch away from the wall, kind of like in this little caddy corner right here. So that way they can't come because the 1 inch rule still, unless you're playing different terrain where they can charge through with a 1 inch and still counts. But most of the time you're going to be 1 inch away from the wall, so that way they can get out 3 inches to be on the other side of the wall. So that's how I'm going to set it up. I might have some servitors on the other side over here to kind of block the other, you going this way, so that way they can't charge within 1 inch of the wall. But that's how I'm going to set it up. Then you're going to have a unit of interceptors in the Rhino. Most of the time you're going to have 2 5-man units in the Rhino as a combi squad. So there's 2 units of 5 interceptors in the Rhino. And now this is the first thing that I'm sure a lot of people have been doing or don't really use it to their best advantage, but you're going to get a 15-inch charge coming out of the Rhino. And how that works is when they disembark from the Rhino, they disembark 3 inches, which will put you basically right out here. So 3 inches from the Rhino is their first move when they get out of the Rhino. So you have to disembark 3 inches out. Now they get to make a full move right after they get out of the Rhino. So if they're moving 12 inches, which basically puts you all the way right in front of these Terminators, just to give you an example, that they can move through models because of their jump pack or personal teleporters on their back. So now you have a 5-man unit of Interceptors that just hopped out of the Rhino that is more than 1 inch away from these Poxwalkers, so that way they're not, you know, in engagement range, but they're 1 inch away. But that's a huge threat range. That's 15 inches coming out of the Rhino, compared to most units that are going to get out 3 and then move 6. That'll be a 9-inch threat, which is right there. And then adding an extra 6 inches gets you all the way out to here. So that's a huge threat coming out of the Rhino for your Interceptors. Now, when they do that, they can obviously shoot, psychic, charge, do whatever they got to do. Let's say there's a character over here that you really, this is a Plague Caster, that you really want to get to. Especially with Death Guard, if you're killing their characters, it's definitely helping you out. There's no heroic interventions over here that you have to really worry about. So when you get out of the Rhino, you're going to cast the power, which is going to be the smite. So you're going to smite these Terminators just to do some damage. But then you're going to be able to shoot all the Poxwalkers off of the objective and then be able to charge the character over here. Let's get some dice for this example. All right, so we got some of our handy dandy dice. Now, when they get out of the Rhino, they're going to shoot the Poxwalkers. Let's say you kill all of them or leave one, it really doesn't matter. But they kill the Poxwalkers. They smite the dudes right here, D3. Oh, look at that. You did 2 wounds to one Terminator, just to kind of get some melta or mortar wounds onto them. And then you're going to charge the Plague Caster. So when they charge, they're charging 6 inches. So they're going to charge basically all the way out to here to stay outside of, you know, 1 inch engagement of the Terminators. Got my magnet back on, but they're charging 6 inches out to here. And then obviously they get to pile in and fight, so they pile in and then they fight. So that 15-inch threat, usually if you get out 9 inches, it's going to be right here. You have a 8 or 9-inch charge coming out of the Rhino if it's a normal Strike Marine. If you're an Interceptor squad, you literally had a 3-inch charge coming out of the Rhino. So that's one way to kind of launch them out and use them as spears for our Grey Knights and kind of get to characters, get to charging units that you really want to destroy. If they're leaving their character alone or at least behind a bodyguarded unit, you can hop over the unit and charge their character to really kill them, because that's the best way to use your Interceptors, is kind of launch them out and get their points back. This Plague Caster is 100 points, and these guys are 120 points. So they killed a unit of Poxwalkers, which is about 50 points, and they're killing the Plague Caster, so boom, they just made up their points, and that's the best way to use the Rhino with the Interceptors. Now, another good thing with the Rhino is a little tactic is when you're using the Rhino moves 12 inches. So let's say you have a little opening over here. He's going to move 6 inches up. He's going to move 6 inches this way. So that's his move. He then can be your charge target for a unit that you really don't want to get overwatched by. So if the Rhino is coming out 12 inches, you have your Interceptors that hopped out of the Rhino. The Rhino then can make their charge. Let's say these Flamers, they have really high AP Flamers. You want to charge the Flamers. You then make the charge, which you technically can pile into their character as well, because it still gets to pile in and then consolidate as just like a normal unit. But that Rhino now is charge the character or the unit that you didn't want to get overwatched. So now these guys can then follow up and make that charge without getting overwatched. Same thing goes for really Tau or Chaos Flamers. What are some other scary ones? R Flamers, like anything that the Thousand Suns Flamers, anything that is a flamer that you don't want to get charged, or somebody that has full rerolls to hit and wound. You have to then decide, am I going to sacrifice a unit to make sure that I get my really melee heavy unit into that unit to destroy them? 100% yes. I'm going to use my Rhino to my advantage. I'm going to move them up. They're going to see what I'm doing, which is what good players are going to notice. They're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to get charged by this Rhino and not going to be able to overwatch. So that's one of the best tools that you can be using your Rhino for, is besides as a launching point later in the game, they're going to be able to move out, charge something, and then kind of disrupt the person getting their overwatch off. So that's a great tactic with the Rhino. Another good thing with the Interceptors is when they move out, let's say they move out and they just want to shoot a unit off a far objective or shoot a unit right in front of them and kind of get back in. So here's the thing. They move out. Now you can put them really anywhere you want because the goal is to put them back in. So if you move them out defensively, let's say they move on the objective in case they fail, they move out, they then get to cast their power on a 6. So there you go, the power failed. Let's spend a CP, power failed again. Good job, good demo, guys. So we're gonna try and roll 6, we got an 8, so power goes off. These guys, since it's in a different phase, they get out in the command phase from the Rhino, so they get out 15 inches. They then cast their power, which is Ethereal Castigation. They get to shoot as if it's the shooting phase, and then make a normal move. So when they shoot, after they're done shooting, they can then hop back into the Rhino. Now here's a strategy not a lot of Grey Knight players do or know about, is it's in a different phase. So since they get out in the movement phase, it is now the psychic phase. I'm not sure if this is going to work in 10th edition, but at least for now, when you guys get to try it, they get to then hop back completely within 3 inches of the Rhino, which then they get to embark. The whole unit has to be within 3, so make sure that when you're moving out, it should be, because if you didn't move the Rhino, you should still technically be within 3 inches of the Rhino, so that way when they hop back, they then get back and embark into the Rhino. So that's a little good strategy, especially if you have some chaff units that you really want to kill. Let's say this unit's on the objective, they then hop out, and let's say there's a really scary like Mortarion or whatever on this side of the field, or the Demon Prince, right? They're gonna shoot the shit out of these zombies, clear the zombies, and then they're gonna hop back 12 inches right here and then embark into the Rhino. And now they're protected again 1 inch away from the wall, so that way they can't be charged by a Demon Prince or any monster or vehicle. And now they're safe back in the Rhino, so by the next turn they basically get out 3 inches over here, and then they hop over, do something, charge, do something, get back in the Rhino. Whatever they gotta do, but they're basically hopping in and out of the Rhino every single time. Another cool thing is, let's say they hop out of the Rhino 12 inches, or 15 inches, right? If you wanna put that out there. The Rhino then advances 3 inches. It is going 8, 6, which is 14, and then one more for 15. So the Rhino is then over there. Let's say it's, you know, on an objective or in another ruin. They're going to cast, and now they're going to hop back in the Rhino over here. That's cool. That's a little strategy that works, you know, sometimes if you really want to keep them protected from shooty armies. Now the thing is, obviously you saw I failed twice. If you fail, you kind of have to put them in a defensive spot. So you can hop them out kind of on the objective. You can hop them out onto the second story building, you know, second floor of the ruin, or even the top floor of the ruin, because they ignore the movement of up and down. So you hop them out on the second floor so they can see something. You usually want to get them within 12 inches so they have the max amount of shots. You could then shoot everything, bolters, and then hop back in wherever you put the Rhino. So the Rhino's back here. You're fine if the Rhino runs out to another location. You have to make sure they're all completely within, you know, 15 inches of the Rhino. So they're all within 12. So if they move back 12, they have plenty of room to get back into the Rhino. So that's one of the best tricks that you can do with the Interceptors and the Rhino, and hopping back and forth, as well as the Ethereal Castigation on the Interceptors, moving out, shooting, and then moving back. Here's another example of what the Interceptors can do for you for secondary purposes. So let's say there's an objective over here, and we got our 12-inch move from over here. So the guy started over here, 12-inch move to here, right? And now they need to get on this objective so that way next turn they can control it, next turn they can put a banner up, next turn they can do whatever they have to do. They are then going to cast Ethereal Castigation. When they cast Ethereal Castigation, it goes off, they can then move 12 inches. They don't have to shoot something. So they basically just moved 24 inches in your movement and psychic phase to get on this objective to control it for your next command phase. Now they can shoot something, but they don't have to. Let's say they have something just running up the side table. Let's say this is your side edge over here. You're probably protected by some line of sight blocking terrain up here. Let's say this is your line of sight blocking terrain on this objective marker. They can even run. Let's say they run. They're running 2 inches extra, so they run an extra 2 inches. So now they're even closer. They're then going to cast Ethereal Castigation. When they cast Ethereal Castigation, let's pretend it goes off. All right, so there you go, it went off. They then get to move an extra 12 inches and be protected by this little line of sight blocking ruin over here, so that way next turn they can't get shot. So now they're behind this ruin, behind cover, on the objective, so that way next turn they can either plant a banner or do psychic ritual. They can move up to here next turn, keep one guy on the objective, put a banner down, cast Purify Ritual, which it'll go off, and now these people who started 24 inches away from over there are now in this quarter. This works with engage. This works with behind enemy lines. You want to make sure that you're not sacrificing them, because they're a 120 point unit and they're one of our best units. So if you're doing this move, you don't want to do it just for 2 points. You don't want to do it just for 1 point. You don't want to do it just to kind of get in the opponent's deployment zone. For whatever. If you can get behind enemy lines for 4 points, or you move up, shoot a unit off the table, let's say it's some zombies in their backfield, and then you get into position, they have to choose to either turn around and try and charge you, turn around and shoot you, or turn around and just ignore you, but then you're in their backfield. So that's a little cheeky move that you can kind of get really far across the board pretty easily with their psychic power. So Ethereal Castigation is definitely a great move to get the extra 24 inches across the table. Now you can only do this once, because it's a brotherhood or it's their specific power, unless you could really know you can only do it once. So make sure you're doing it for the unit that you really want to do it for. Here's a little thing with paladins. They're not being run as much now, but you would run Ethereal Castigation on a unit of paladins instead of the either +1 to the cover save or hammer hand or whatever they want to run. But usually you could put Ethereal Castigation and +1 to their cover save if you really want to make them tanky, but they can actually do the same thing that they did. So if these guys are super slow, they're going to advance an extra 3 inches. So they're basically moving 8 inches from where they started. So they're running up 8 inches all the way up to here. They can then cast Ethereal Castigation, which then, let's say it goes off. They then get to shoot something, but they don't have any assault weapons, but at least they get to move an additional 5 inches behind cover, or let's say in cover, to get the extra cover save. Now, that's a good move to get the extra move on the paladins, or if they're behind cover already, and they have really good weapons, let's say it's a 10-man unit, you have them fully buffed up because of Drago, they then get to cast, or they get to move out, they're 5 inches, cast Ethereal Castigation, they all then get to shoot, and then move back 5 inches behind the wall. Same thing for the interceptors. The paladins can use the same exact spell to kind of get some movement shenanigans. Or let's say this is the center terrain piece, and your paladins are walking out of the ruin on your side. They walk out, shoot something to get some extra movement. They then move their 5 inches kind of catty cornered to get behind cover again. So they basically start back here, move up, shoot, and then move that way to get some extra inches, so that way they can threaten the board pretty easily and pretty fast. So that's a cheeky little move that you can use with your paladins. If you run around a 5-man or a full 10-man, you're not really going to be seeing it that often, but you can bring Ethereal Castigation with your paladins. All right, here's the big Mortal Wound Librarian that everybody has been running or is running or wants to run when they're getting into Grey Knights. Now, why is the Librarian so clutch? There's so much you can do with the Librarian. The Mortal Wound Librarian is basically his nickname. He brings he brings Vortex of Doom, he brings Purify Flame, he could bring a Smite, he could bring a Warlord trait, which gets +1 to his Purify Flame and Vortex of Doom. It's Witch Fires. It doesn't work with Smite, so make sure you're not doing it against Smite. But he basically comes down from Deep Strike to get the Teleporter Sawed off, to get some cheeky character kills, or starts on the table, gets gated turn 1, or runs out and just does something, some Psychic Powers turn 1. But really, he's going to be Deep Striking for you to come down and get that Teleporter Sawed, or just kill super elite squads that don't have any mortal wound saves. Examples, Death Guard. So here's an example of some Death Guard Terminators, a Death Guard Malignant Plaguecaster, a Demon Prince, and some zombies. So let's say we're using this line of sight blocking piece of terrain. You have a couple options here. They can come down outside of 9 inches. So let's say this is the 9-inch mark right about here. They're going to come out down 9 inches. Now, how these powers work is it's the closest visible target has to be casted on. That's with Smite, with Purify Flame, and Vortex of Doom. I wish you could target it, but you can't target any of them. So how you do this is your Librarian. Now, if you have a laser, it makes it a lot easier, but if you really want to kill this Malignant Plaguecaster, let's say you really want to kill this this Demon Prince. Now, first off, you won't be able to because of these zombies. If I teleport over here, the closest visible target has to be the zombies. I can't get the Demon Prince unless I'm teleporting all the way in this corner, which then you'd be able to get line of sight on the Demon Prince. But the example over here is we're going to use this to our advantage. Now, these Terminators are actually closer to my Librarian than this Malignant Plaguecaster. But if I'm measuring, let's say, 12 inches to this Malignant Plaguecaster, I'm going to go right here and use either the base or the weapon, which is the true line of sight from the model, to target the closest visible model, which is this. Even though these guys are closer, I cannot see them. I cannot target them. So it has to be the closest visible targeted model, which is this guy. So I'm going to go right here, shoot that Plaguecaster, and I'm going to spend 3 CP because that's one of the stratagems that you could be doing. Spend 1 CP, roll 3 dice, drop the lowest. I'm going to have to spend another CP to extend the range of my Purify Flame because it's only 9 inches. So if I Deep Strike outside of 9 inches, which you have to spend one if you're going to cast it, you then can cast up to 15 inches away. So we're going to start off by casting the Vortex of Doom onto this guy right here. So we get a Vortex of Doom off. It does 2d3 plus 1 because of the Warlord trait we gave him to this Malignant Plaguecaster. So we're going to do 3, 4, 5 mortal wounds to this Plaguecaster, which then in all would kill this Plaguecaster. Now let's say that this is a unit of Terminators. So you have a unit of Terminators right here. I'm going to make sure that I have a line of sight to these 2 guys, because if I cast a power and kill this guy, I'm not going to be able to cast any other powers because I can't physically see anything. But if it's a unit that you really want to kill, you need line of sight to that unit. So I'm going to put line of sight to this unit. I'm going to cast my Vortex of Doom, which did 5 mortal wounds. We did 3 to this one Terminator. Let's pretend he's a Terminator. And another 2 to this Terminator. So now this squad still has 7 wounds left. So I'm going to cast Purify Flame. Again, you roll 3 dice, drop the lowest because it works for all the spells. My Purify Flame goes off, which is a big Purify Flame. We're then going to roll D3 plus 4. It's originally plus 3, but I get plus 1 because of my Warlord trait. So it'll be D3 plus 4. So actually it's only 5 mortal wounds. But if, let's say, we would have rolled a 6, that would have been 7 mortal wounds, which would have just wiped this squad. Now, you have another option. You can spend 1 CP and cast another power, which is the Smite from your Mortal Wound Librarian. So if you wanted to spend 1 more CP, you still get to roll 3 dice because it would last the entire Psychic phase. He then gets the Smite, which would have been a 10, which then he does D3 mortal wounds. You can't add the plus 1 because it's only for Witchfire, but he actually does an additional 3 mortal wounds on top of another model. I usually put plasma guns with my Librarian, just because if he's within 12 inches, he gets 2 shots with a strength 7, AP 3, 1 damage plasma, which could be that additional wound that you needed to kill a tank, kill the character, or kill the unit that you were trying to get for teleport assault. If you bring the Melta, it only shoots 12 inches, and if you gated him out next turn for defensively, he only shoots 12 inches. If he has a plasma, he can shoot 24 inches, or if he's within range, he can shoot the plasma and again finish off that unit that he really wants to kill. So I like the plasma on this guy because at least you get 2 shots. The Melta's never hit. I never roll a 3+. It's always a 1 or a 2. So the Melta, even though it's free, I never get it to hit. It's just me. But that's kind of a little cheeky way to get line of sight off on characters, get line of sight off on units. Now, let's say he's towing in cover. Another good thing you can do with your Librarian is a relic that you can bring with him, which gives him +1 to his cover save, or +1 to his armor save, and a 5-up Feel No Pain. When this guy comes down, if he's in cover, he can cast from 15 inches away. So basically he comes down, casts from 15 inches away, which is really far. 15 inches is huge because you get the extra 6 inches for the CP. He can cast and be pretty defensively from shooting, even though you might have like a unit that came down with him. Let's say you brought a unit of strikes. Let's say they deep struck, behind this wall, and now he's character protected. So they deep struck here, he's character protected, even though they can only see him, he's character protected from these guys behind the wall, so he can't be targeted unless he's the closest visible target. Or target to him for Lookout Sir. So they can't target him because of the guys. But if they do get a target off him, let's say they come down over here and now he's the closest target, they can shoot him. He is at a 2+ save with +1 to his cover save because of this, and +1 to his armor save. So he's ignoring everything AP2. So AP3 will give him a 3-up save. AP4 will give him a 4-up save. So 4-up save with a 5-up Feel No Pain. This is a tanky boy. Right? So he's coming down, doing all the mortal wounds, and being shot at. He's pretty tanky if you give him that relic. If you don't give him the relic, you have to be a little bit more defensive. You have to make sure that you have people protecting him, right? So let's say these guys are in there. He sticks his little halberd out on the other side here so that way he can see people from behind this building. And then he's kind of protected by little strikes or anybody else that you have in front of him. That's the best way to defend this guy. So that's a little combo that you're going to see in almost every single Grey Knight list. The relics and the stratagems for the librarian. Again, you're going to be deep striking them. You can use them as a gate target. Here's another trick that I learned this year at LVO. Let's say he's in combat with some people, right? There's still 2 guys left of this Terminator unit that he got in combat with somehow. He lived. Let's say he's got one wound left, right? So it's now your turn. He's going to spend 1 CP. He's going to cast Purify Flame. Purify Flame goes off. It's a big Purify Flame. He does D3 plus 4 mortal wounds. He does 7 mortal wounds. He kills this unit. You then are going to cast Gate of Affinity from your other librarian all the way over here. You're going to gate this guy to safety. That counts for Teleport Assault. Teleport Assault, if you kill something during that turn and that unit gated, shunted, or came in from Deep Strike, you get 5 points. Doesn't matter the order that which it happened. So if this guy's stuck in combat with a unit, he then finishes off that unit. He then killed that unit with the powers. You can then gate this guy out of combat or to safety, whatever it happens. Let's say you're in combat with 2 units, he kills 1. You can still then gate him out of combat, and you get 5 points for Teleport Assault. Booyah. So that's a good, easy way if he's stuck in combat to try and get him out with himself by just smiting the shit out of everybody in combat with him. And then once he does kill a unit, you can then gate him out to safety. Even if he doesn't kill a unit, you still want to get him out to safety, but that's a cheeky little way to get Teleport Assault off. Usually it was 3 points back in the day, then it was 4 points, now it's 5 points. It's so good to try and focus and build your list around Teleport Assault, and this guy is going to get you that extra 5 points, especially if he's stuck in combat. Let's talk about Aegis real quick. So Aegis is a Grey Knight armor that they get to have in the codex. Now, if you read it, the Aegis is Grey Knight keyword specific. Everything essentially in our army is Grey Knights. So these servitors, Grey Knights. This Rhino, Grey Knight. This Storm Raven, Grey Knight. So what that means is all of these guys have a 5-up mortal wound save, which is very rare. So if you guys are getting smited or blasted or whatever with mortal wounds, or a Hellfire cannon with chaos, they actually get some saves against that. So when you're getting mortal wounds with these guys, whether it be shots or in combat or even with the psychic power, you can use this as a defensive little strategy, so that way they have to smite your Rhino because it's the closest target. You can run these guys up next to your character to make sure that these guys get smited before your character. They have a 5-up mortal wound save. So just being able to roll and have a save, besides not being able to roll and have a mortal wound save like this Death Guard, is huge. So make sure that you remember that your tanks, vehicles, and even these little fucking 30-point servitors, yes, it is Mario, Homer Simpson, Hulk, and Superman, they are going to have a mortal wound save with any mortal wounds that are coming into play. So let's go over some psychic powers. So let's say this librarian is a defensive librarian, has Sanctuary. You can actually put a Sanctuary on a vehicle. So if this Rhino or this Storm Raven is coming in, let's say the Storm Raven is coming in turn 2 because it's a flyer now with the new rules, you can actually throw Sanctuary up on the Storm Raven. So it has a 3-up, -1 to hit, and a 4-up invuln save. And it shoots a shit ton of guns. They're all free now, so at 260 points to bring in a Storm Raven might actually be fun to test out. I wouldn't put anything in the Storm Raven. I tested that out. Did not work well. Them coming in turn 3 is too late in the game to actually have some models do shit. So I would actually just bring it in as a melee or as a gun platform. It's going to soak up a ton of damage. It's going to be toughness 7, -1 to hit. You're probably not going to put it in range of anything that's flying because it probably will die. But if you have it come in and there's not a lot of stuff on the table that can kill it, it's going to kind of run around and do whatever the hell it wants. But when you come in, you know, via really deep strike, kind of, because of the flyer roll, you have to be outside 9 inches from another unit. Make sure you're within 18 inches of whatever that wants to give it Sanctuary. So that way when you cast Sanctuary on it, it has the 4-up invuln save. If you really want this Rhino to not die, just throw Sanctuary on it. If you kind of run it out because it has a bunch of units in there and you don't want it to die for engage, throw Sanctuary on it. If that's your last ditch effort, throw Sanctuary on it. These guys, probably not really worth putting Sanctuary on. But they have the 5-up mortal wound save, so who cares? But this guy I really wanted to just talk about because if he's coming in, he's 260 points, he was 380 points, you really want to protect him. You want to kind of make sure that he has as much defensive buffs as he possibly can. So putting a Sanctuary on this model is huge. And it has a 5-up mortal wound save. So the soul burst cannon shooting at it, at least it's not just going to die. It has some type of save against it. So that's a good little combo with the Aegis and the 4-up invuln save. All right, guys, let's go over our new boys of the army. This is a Arks of Omen little kind of thing you can bring is the Armigers or Helgrims or whatever the hell you call them. How I've been running them is there's a couple different ways to run. One way is you can get +1, I believe, to hit or damage or to wound against vehicles. How I run these guys, since we actually have Dreadknights in our army, look at the base size. If you can hide 3 or 4 of these guys on the table, there's no way you're going to be able to hide these guys with these guys because all the space is going to be taken up by these Dreadknights. So most of the time I'm going to be deep striking one of these Dreadknights and trying to reserve these Warglyphs. So what I do is I put these guys into the Mysterious Guardian, right? So they actually get to start in reserves for free because of Arks of Omen. These guys are taking up the space of everything, so you have your little deployment zone here. These guys can walk in from reserves turn 1. That's what the Mysterious Guardian does. So look it up, look at the keyword, comes in turn 1, or 1 turn ahead of reserves. So how reserves work, which we'll do a whole video once 10th edition comes out, but how the reserves work is you get to walk on from a table edge completely within 6 inches, which they walk on together, and you get crazy line of sights to whatever you want to shoot. Some scenarios you can't walk onto their deployment zone edge, but you can walk in from the sides. Now if their deployment zone is kind of like the slanted deployment zone, you can kind of walk on their one side outside of the deployment zone turn 1, but you walk in that one side, which is like right next to the deployment zone, and then you'll get straight line of sight onto whatever you want to see with 4d3 shots coming in from your Armigers, which are strength 7, AP 2, which is huge now in Arks of Omen, and 3 damage, which will blow up almost any tank, any vehicle, and kill some Terminators before they get any buffs up on them. Kill some Possessed, kill some, of these Death Guard Terminators, right? So if they fail any other 4-ups, boom, Terminator dead. Just kidding, they're Death Guard, so -1 damage. So these guys are insane with Mysterious Guardians and our Grey Knights. I would highly recommend bringing 2 of them. 3 of them is too many points. There's not enough secondaries to do. The list is lacking a lot in units and kind of these guys. So I brought a Grandmaster, 2 Dreadknights, and 2 Armigers in the most recent battle report that I did on the channel, and it actually worked out very, very well. You still have enough infantry to go out and do secondaries and do objectives and whatever you may do, but 2 of these guys walking in from any of the table edges besides the opponent's table edge and their deployment zone gives them a lot crazy vectors and lines of sight to try and get some shots off turn 1 of your opponent. So if you don't have turn 1, it's fine. They're going to walk out and kind of give you some straight line of sight onto whatever you want. And they're shooting 60 inches. So they shoot super, basically the whole board on whatever angle you want. Now, if they're shooting super far away, most of the time you're not going to get shot back because you're so far away. Plus they have a 1 CP strat, which you can use, which on 6s auto wound. So anything like your Dark Angel Terminators, which can only wound them on a 4-up, great. Hopefully I can roll some 6s to hit. It auto wounds. I don't even have to roll a wound roll. So a little cheeky thing that I use with these guys is the Mysterious Guardian. So that way they can walk in turn 1 on any deployment zone or edge besides the opponent deployment edge. Let's go over some Dreadknight teleport assault tricks. So this guy is the Grandmaster. He's going to be giving rerolls 1s to hit. You want to kind of keep your Dreadknights or any core units around 6 inches of him. Let's say you have a line of sight ready to go on these, you know, Terminators right here. Like you have perfect line of sight, you have perfect distance. Let's say I'm 30 inches away. How you would be able to do Teleport Assault is if he cast Gate of Affinity onto this guy, you roll Gate of Affinity, Gate goes off on a 7, you can choose to literally gate this guy up and down. Let me show you again. You gate this guy up and down exactly where he was, even maybe a little bit further as long as he's still within distance, and that still counts as a Teleport Assault. If you have the perfect lineup and you don't really want to mess with anything, you moved out to make sure that you actually still had line of sight to the target because you don't want to fail gate. If you happen to fail gate, you could still at least shoot that target. You don't want to stay behind a building because then if you fail gate, he's not doing anything for the turn. So you still want to make sure he has line of sight to whatever you're trying to shoot. And then when you cast gate, you gate this guy exactly where you wanted him because he was already lined up perfectly. So this guy goes up in the air, comes back down, and it counts as Teleport Assault. So that counts as a gate, which if he kills this unit, he gets 5 points. Same thing with the Librarian. If the Librarian gates up and down, he can still do it. If any unit that you do gates up and down, you can still do it. So that's a lot of ways that you kind of do that. Now, another thing with Teleport Assault, if you gate this guy up and down outside 9 inches, and then this unit shoots and you leave one guy, he then runs up and charges this guy. Let's say he lives, he then kills this guy, it still counts as Teleport Assault. He gated that battle round, which it still counts as a Teleport Assault for the 5 points. So as long as it was that same turn, or battle round, whatever it may be, it still counts as Teleport Assault. So if they're crazy enough to kind of charge your Dreadknights still with the unit that you shot at before, or let's say it's another unit, if this other like zombie unit kind of runs in, you then kill all of them with a sweep, it still counts as Teleport Assault because the unit that killed the model was the one that got gate off, so he's the one that killed the unit. So he gets Teleport Assault. So that's a little way to kind of do it. We already talked about the Librarian get the Teleport Assault, where if he kills a unit and then gates out, it still counts as Teleport Assault. So a little thing that I like to do is if I just have barely line of sight, let's say this is the ruin that you're behind. Let's say you barely have line of sight to this guy right here, right? I just gate him up, gate him down, and I still have the same exact line of sight because he was in the right position that I've needed him in to get the Teleport Assault off. So little cheeky way to get Teleport Assault off and not put your guys in danger or kind of think too hard about Teleport Assault. Once you get gate off and you guys are good, just put them back where they were. All right, let's go over some combat squadding. So with Grey Knights, you can combat squad with all of your units. So anytime I run Purifiers or Flamers or whatever it may be, there's a cheeky way that you can get actually 4 Flamers into a unit of 5. So how you do it is you bring a 10-man unit of Purifiers. Let's say all these guys are Purifiers, they have the white helmets like this little guy over here, and let's say 4 of them have Flamers because in a 10-man unit you can bring 4 Flamers. Same with Paladins. Paladins you can bring, I believe, 2 weapons and a 5-man, so you can bring 4 weapons and a 10-man. Terminators you can only bring 2. But with a 10-man Purified unit, even Purgation Squad, which you don't have to do a Purgation because you can bring 4 and a 5-man, but Purifiers, you bring 4 Incinerators, and the rest of them either halberds or swords, whatever you prefer. And how you combat squad is you combat squad the ones that have the melee weapons into 1 with the Justicar, and then the other 5 with the regular dude with the melee weapon, and 4 Flamers into that combat squad. You can choose which weapons go in which squad. So this squad now has 4 Incinerators and 1 weapon, and the other one has 4 weapons with the Justicar that has a weapon. So that's a cool little way to kind of get 4 Flamers into a 5-man unit without bringing a Purgation Squad. So Purgation Squad obviously can take it already, but you got Purifiers now. Purifiers got Purify Flame. Like, that's such a cool fucking ability. So you got 2 units. I wouldn't bring 2 5-man units. If you really want to bring, 10 of them, bring 1 10-man combat squad. So you have 1 melee Purify unit in a Rhino or something, and then you have 1 deep striking, so that way they can come down and just flame the shit out of something. So that's a cool little combo with combat squad, combo with combat squad that you can do for some extra weapons. All right, guys, here's our gun platform. So for example, these Armigers are going to be Dreadknights. So pretend these guys are our Dreadknights. In our list, we have 3 Dreadknights, 1, 2, 3, and then we have a Dreadknight Grandmaster. Now in the back here, this little guy, which is super tiny compared to these dudes, is a Dreadnought. You can bring a Venerable Dreadnought, you can bring a regular Dreadnought. It's completely up to you. If you want to bring a regular Dreadnought, you make him a gun platform. If you bring a Venerable, he hits on 2s. Won't be able to reroll 1s, but at least he hits on 2s. So what he's going to do is he's going to spend 1 CP, and he's going to be able to pick either reroll hits of 1 or wounds of 1. Now, since you already have your Grandmaster, he's going to give out full rerolls to hit of 1. So the combo is you give this guy reroll wounds of 1. That's awesome. So everything in this little 6-inch bubble is going to be able to reroll all hits. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be reroll all hits of 1. And then all of them are going to be able to, I don't believe he'll get it. I have to read. I don't know if it's core or just anybody, but I think it's core. Everybody gets to reroll 1s to wound. So your strength 8 or strength 9 on one of them gets to reroll 1s to wound. This guy wants to wound, this guy wants to wound, and even himself wants to wound. So all these guys get to reroll hits of 1 and wounds of 1. So this little kind of posse is basically just kind of moving up, right, together, and they're just kind of just shooting everything. It's such a cool little combo that it's not run as often just because of how much line of sight blocking terrain there are. But if he kind of starts off, you know, on coming in from reserves, he can come in from reserves, and all of your Dreadknights are either deep striking or walking on. They kind of walk in around him, and then he could do it, you know, wherever. So actually, it might be in the command phase. So take that back, rewind. He has to be on the table because it happens in the command phase. But this little combo with the Grandmaster and the Dreadknight or Dreadnought, full rerolls to hit and wound of 1 is huge for so many models in a 6-inch aura. 6 inches is huge. If this guy's dead center, 6 inches puts you all the way out to here. 6 inches puts you all the way out to here. Right? Same thing with this guy. This guy's right in front of him, 6 inches, and then 6 inches. So this whole gap, you can get an aura of 2 auras of reroll hits and wounds of 1. So that little combo I really like. If you have a tech priest or even 2 tech priests in that little combo as well, let's say Drago's another tech priest or Drago's Drago, you kind of have this little thing right here. You have 1 tech priest give +1 to hit, 1 tech priest give +1 to hit. Now you have 2 Dreadknights and your Grandmaster hitting on 2s. If this is a Venerable Dread, he's hitting on 2s as well. So you have all 4 of these guys hitting on 2s. If this Dread Knight wants to get into play as well, you can give, let's say you fucking run 3 tech priests. I don't know, you're crazy, right? So you run another +1 to hit on that guy. So all of them are hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. All of them are wounding on most of the time Marines 2s, rerolling 1s. So really cool little gun platform combo that you can be running with the Dreadnought. He's not run as much, but with the free weapons and kind of lower cost, you might want to test him out in a gun list. Let's go over one of my favorite brotherhoods, which is the Blades of Victory Brotherhood. Let's get rid of these fucking zombos. Oh my god, our Grandmaster died. All right, so what you're going to be doing is your Grandmaster is going to have the Blades of Victory Warlord trait, which is he gets the pregame move as well as another core unit within 9 inches of him, which is huge, also gets the pregame move. So if he has that Warlord trait, he gets to move up 6 inches himself. So he's going to be able to move up 6 inches. And then a unit within 9 inches, you know, before he does that move, gets to also move. So these guys are going to be able to move up 6 inches as well, which are our interceptors. So they're all scooting up 6 inches. Now you're going to be able to leave 1 guy within 6 inches of Drago, because in the command phase, Drago is then going to give these guys full rerolls to hit. So they have full rerolls to hit now in your Blades of Victory, and then you're going to launch them forward. So they're going to move 12 inches off the screen forward, which is 18 inches from where they started. So Drago all the way out to here is 18 inches away. So if you're starting even in the one with the circle deployment zone with the 9-inch bubble, you're already in their deployment zone or right at the cusp of their deployment zone because of the pregame move. This guy also obviously is moving up 9 inches. So he's 15-inch pregame move before anybody even gets to go. So 6-inch pregame move, and 9-inch first turn move, but he's going to be able to get an assault off on turn 1 if he wants, which if you're at 24 inches away, that's a 9-inch charge. If he has first to the fray, that's an 8-inch charge. If he has the 1 tides, he gets minimum 3, minimum 6 on the charge, +1, minimum 7. So it's like he can definitely get to where he wants to go. Now, these guys are going to be the same things. Now, a little combo, these guys have full rerolls to hit because of Drago. So let's say turn 1, you have, somebody out in line of sight. So they get to pregame move up 6 inches, be within 6 inches of Drago. Drago gives them full rerolls to hit. They then get launched 12 inches up. You're going to spend 1 CP for them to do sideboard ammunition. Sideboard ammunition now is actually pretty good in Arks of Omen. The -1 AP, auto wounding on 6s. So if you're shooting a unit of Terminators that aren't in cover, you're shooting a vehicle or whatever you want to kind of blow up turn 1, they're getting 20 shots, full rerolls to hit. 6s do an auto wound. Everything else then gets to wound, and if it wounds, all that is -1 AP. So that is a shit ton of shots, full rerolls to hit, and one's or AP1. So it's going to kill usually something turn 1 from pretty close range. Okay, so that's a little great combo with Drago and Blades of Victory. And then whatever they charge, they still get full rerolls to hit. Now what you're going to do with Drago is Drago's probably going to gate a Dreadnought up somewhere to be near the other Dreadnought Grandmaster for the rerolls 1s to hit, or he's going to just gate a Dreadnought somewhere to get the teleport assault off a unit. Drago also gives him rerolls 1 to hit because of the Grandmaster, but he counts as a teleport assault unit, and he's going to put Sanctuary on that unit that went forward. So this unit has full rerolls to hit, plus a 4 invuln save because of Sanctuary from this boy Drago because of Blades of Victory. So this little combo, little thing right here, is so scary to the opponent that sometimes they even have to deploy super far away because they're afraid of that pregame move, that pregame assault. Now, if these guys are moving up 18 inches on a 24-inch board, you basically have a 6-inch charge because you have to end within 1 inch. So you have a 6-inch charge turn 1, which if you want to cast their power, Blades of Victory has a free reroll with their psychic power. So these guys can even cast that power turn 1 to get a free reroll on their charge. So there's another great combo, not just with Blades of Victory, but let's say we have our Grandmaster with, I don't know, Hammer of Righteousness and First to the Fray. So you can do it with Blades of Victory. It's a really good combo. Blades of Victory with the First of the Fray spell. But he gets to move up 6, move up 9, so he's moving 15 inches. He then can charge. He gets +1 to his charge. If you're in the Tide of Clarity, Tide of something, I have it written down. It is Tide of Clarity. So Tide of Clarity is a minimum 3 on the dice to advance and charge. So when you're charging and you roll 2 dice, you're a minimum 6-inch charge. He gets a minimum 7 because he gets +1 to his charge. So let's say he gets a charge off turn 1. Everything within melee range of him is they get +1 to their charge to that unit. So let's say you gated up a unit. Let's say you gated up this guy. And then let's say one of your other Dreadnoughts shunted up. So now you have 2 guys 9 inches away from those targets. You then get to roll a 8-inch charge on this guy because he's in combat with that dude. So if he rolls an 8, he can then get in turn 1. If he then rolls an 8, he can get in turn 1. So this is just a crazy, bonkers turn 1 assault play. Even if you want to run it with Blades of Victory, you basically have a 5-man interceptor unit charging whatever the fuck they want to charge. You have 1 Dreadnought shunting up, 1 Dreadnought getting gated up, 1 Dreadnought Grandmaster having a 15-inch pregame move. So basically you have 5 interceptors with Sanctuary full rerolls to hit. You have 2 Dreadnoughts in their face, and you have a Grandmaster in the face. With Tide of Clarity, you need to roll a 5 or a 6 on one of the 2 dice to get these 2 charges off. How is because if you have a 5, the other dice is a minimum 3. That's an 8-inch charge. If one of them is a 5, the other minimum is a 3. That's an 8-inch charge. Same with the 6. So if both these guys roll a 5 or a 6 on one of the 2 dice, which is pretty good statistics, you'll be able to get that charge off. Turn 1. That works with a 10-man Paladin brick, works with a 10-man Terminator brick, works with a 10-man Interceptor squad. Whatever you want to get in your opponent's face, even coming in turn 2 from Deep Strike. That is how you can make a huge, reliable charge. If one of them want to do the free reroll, at least you know you have a free reroll on this one. If you want to charge with this guy first, he charges. Let's say you fail, you spend a CP to reroll. He then makes the charge. He charges, fails, you get a free reroll. reroll, he then makes the charge. So those statistics go up even higher if you get 2 chances to make that charge off. So this little combo, Drago, Grandmaster, Dreadknights, and Interceptor, you can be really, really scary turn 1 with Blades of Victory. Even turn 2, even bottom of 1. Because if you're running Blades of Victory and you don't go first, you can use it defensively. You have Foretelling at the Locust, so you could pre-deploy or redeploy 2 units behind cover. This guy that started on the line, he can kind of back up 6 inches, either behind cover or in a forest. And then these guys could just move back 6 inches behind the wall to kind of join Drago and just wait a turn. So you get to redeploy 3 units, and you get to pregame move 2 of your units in defensive ability. So you basically redeployed almost half, or if not more, of your army before the game even started. So Blades of Victory is, yes, very aggressive, but could also be very defensive if you don't go turn 1. And Grey Knights have such good tools that you don't really need to have like the best Brotherhood to play a good game. You can still run Blades of Victory, and if guys come down from Deep Strike, you can use the power to get the free reroll. So it's still pretty good. They have a 1 CP strat where if they charge a model like this, anybody that's in engagement range, so you'd roll 5 dice, I believe it's off their toughness, you get to do a mortal wound. It's kind of a little cheeky mortal wounds out of phase ability, but that's a Blade of Victory strat. So that's a little pretty fun way to get across the table turn 1 with all those combos. Here's a fun little tactic. Not run as much now, but you have the banner. You can give this guy banner of I think Refining Flame, Purifying Flame, whatever it may be. But this guy can come down from Deep Strike. He can spend 1 CP to extend a psychic power range. His banner does a 6-inch range. Everything within 6 inches takes D3 mortal wounds, every unit. So let's say there's multiple units, within 6 inches, but when you deep strike, you have to be outside of 9. So we can spend 1 CP, extend that to 12 inches, come down within like 3 or 4 units that you really want to take over or do some mortal wounds to, maybe Abaddon or something like that, some characters. You then deep strike, spend 1 CP, and then cast that action, and then, or psychic action, and then everything within 12 inches units, I think it's enemy, takes D3 mortal wounds. That's a cool little combo. So again, you don't see that often. It is very niche. But if he is, let's say, behind a wall, in a Land Raider, in a Storm Raider, whatever he may be, he can get out, be in the heart of literally the entire army, and then just put his banner down on the ground and you shall not pass, and just fucking mortal wound everybody around him within 12 inches for 1 CP. So it's cool. It's a good little strategy if you really want to test it out and have some fun with it. But that's something that I wanted to put in the tactic video because you don't see that often, but when it goes off, it's hilarious. These guys don't get talked about as often, but these servitors are one of the best units we have in the list when it comes to defensive and strategy with the Grey Knights. So they're a 30-point unit. They're an elite slot. You can bring them for free as a no force org slot if you have a tech marine, which most of the time we have at least 1 tech marine. So these guys can come in with no force org for 30 points. If I can fit 2 of them in the list, I would. Most of the time it's going to be 1 to 2 units of servitors. What they're doing for you is, let's say you have an objective turn 1, which most of the time it's 10 inches up and then 15 inches in. So your objective is basically starting right here. All right. So if your objective is right here, you have a building in the back here, kind of for purposes. You're going to deploy your servitors just, right here, defend in the back, whatever it may be. Turn 1, they're going to be able to put a banner up. All right. Let's say you take banners, which most of the time we might. They put a banner up. They did their job. They put a little banner down. Great. Turn 2, they're then going to run the fuck away to get and block out the backfield. 9 inches is about right here from the backfield, and then all of them within 2 inches gets to space out pretty far. So this 9 inches gets out to from here all the way up to where this Demon Prince is, all the way up to here, which you can't really see, is a little off camera, but this part of the table, which is about 17 inches up, and then 17 inches up. So this 17 by 17 little corner is protected by this 30-point unit. So that's what these guys are really made for, is to block out the backfield by only spending 30 points. Instead of spending 100 points for a strike squad, instead of spending 175 points for a Dread Knight, this 30-point unit can block out your backfield while also doing actions. If you have an all-spec scan, great, they're doing an all-spec scan for one turn. If you have a banner, great, they're putting up a banner. If you have the Nachman data, or whatever the hell it's called now, they do the data in the back corner. So that 30-point unit does a lot of work for our Grey Knights. Now, another thing they can do is they can block out charges. So let's say you're facing Death Company that charges fucking forever across the table. They get turn 1. Well, I'm putting these guys 1 inch away from the wall. If I have 2 units of them, they're basically covering the entire wall on your U or V or whatever the hell you're playing terrain. Now that way they can't charge through. So if you have a really unit that you don't want to get charged, let's say you have a Dread Knight right here. I'm running these guys to be away from my Dread Knight. So now they're close enough that you can't fit a 32 mil base through their base. You can even proxy it and make sure that they can't fit. So you space them out just kind of like this. So you space them out, space them out, space them out just like this, so that way they can't fit through. And then boom, now I have a unit that's protecting my my guys. Also, if you want to make sure that he's close enough so that way you can't fit a jump pack infantry through like that, and they're not within 1 inch of your guy this way, that's another way to kind of block out. So let's say these guys are up like this. He won't be able to kind of land his guy here because he's landing on one of these 2 bases. And he can't charge my guy out front because he's not within 1 inch because they're blocking it out. So these guys can block charges for your characters. So that way, let's say your Demon army or the Slaanesh army or the Fiends charging up, they can't get to your key characters because of this 30-point unit. Some really melee heavy armies don't have guns. So they're really just trying to get to your lines as soon as possible, or get to your characters to kill your characters. This 30-man unit can stop that. They're not going to get shot because they don't have any guns, and they can be spread out enough that way they're not going to be able to get that charge off. So that's a great little tactic for the servitors, and using really just for them to block out the backfield. So most of the time, if you can spread them out this way, like you have a 9-inch bubble from back here. This one guy is basically protecting right from here all the way up to there just by himself. And then these guys are kind of going this way. So that way you have the 9-inch this way, 9-inch that way, 9-inch that way, and 9-inch that way. So basically this whole backfield, right, all the way out to here and all the way out to there. So they can't get anywhere around this backfield edge just for this 30-point unit. And again, if they want to shoot at my servitors, go right ahead. I'm sure they soaked up enough firepower from your unit to still have at least maybe one of them alive. So they do get a 5-up mortal wound save, and they get cover from being in there. So they basically have a 3-up cover save of shooting at them with AP1, or a 4-up cover, or sorry, 3-up cover save with AP0, or a 4-up cover save with AP1. So good little tactic, just having 2 in the field. If you want to take the 2 big shots on these guys out front, they die, great. The other small bolter fire can soak up these guys behind the building. If they're within, I believe, 3 or 6 inches of our tech priest, where the fuck our tech priest went, right here, they get the tech priest leadership, or leadership 9, so they're not going to be able to run. So if they kill 3 of them, they're still alive, they're still able to be there because the leadership 9 of the tech priest, which most of the time you're going to have the tech priest in the back casting divination and using them as a screen or lookout sir. So good little combo there. They can kind of be starting on the line if you really want them to kind of do some more actions. If you have the bomb mission, they're going to kind of move out, plant a bomb. If you want to make them over here, I guess they can't be OBSEC, but they can do a bomb if they're behind cover. If you have player placed terrain, you put a terrain piece kind of right here on the opponent's zone, so that way they can't see anything. They start on the edge. They then walk over, 4 or 5 inches. They place the bomb. Boom, they just made up their points. So little units like that can do a lot for the secondary game, and also a lot for your army composition, because they just bring so much to the table, especially blocking out the backfield. So servitors, on point. All right, guys, here's one of the best strategies that I've been doing, especially against Keeble, for a little bit now. Now, here's an example of a strung out unit. Let's say they're Terminators or somebody bigger than Poxwalkers, but you have a strung out unit that they're trying to get the most space that they possibly can. Let's say there's an objective here, an objective over here. So what they're doing is they're basically trying to control two objectives or two different kind of parts of the table. Now what you could do is, let's say you have a rhino right on your side over here. These guys are inside the rhino, they're interceptors. They hop out of 15, just kind of like we said before. They hop out 15 up to here. And this is a ruin, so you don't have to worry about the difficult terrain. So they hop out there, another unit hops out over here. Now what you can do, this is a great strategy, this is kind of like a pro strategy to try and get as many attacks on a unit without getting hit back as hard. So this is a Slaanesh Terminator, fully buffed up, amazing unit, and you want to try and start whittling them down. So what you're going to do is you're going to be able to charge them from two different locations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and charge as far as I possibly can with this unit. So let's say they go 6 inches. They're going to charge as far as I possibly can all the way out to here. From one edge, right? So they're charging out to here from one edge. Then I'm going to have another unit over here charge in from this edge. So they get a 6. They're going to charge in 1 inch away, right about here. So they're charging from this edge, they're charging from this edge. Now how the rules work is you can only consolidate to the closest enemy unit with consolidate and pilots. So when you consolidate, I'm going to be able to fight first. So I'm going to choose this unit that is kind of in between both these guys. This guy is good. They have a good charge. They're 1 inch away from the target, and they're as far towards the edge as I can. This unit, I have to get more around this side to get the emphasis of spreading out as I possibly can. So we're going to pile in. We're going to pile in 3 inches over to here. Still, again, 1 inch away from this guy. This guy's going to pile in. This guy's going to pile in half of a half, half of a half, and half of a half. What I mean by half of a half is this guy's ½ inch from this guy. So that way the second group has to be within ½ inch of this guy. So technically this guy can even be a little bit further. So all these guys are going to be able to get their attacks on the Terminator unit. So these guys are going to do whatever they can. They're going to try and, you know, kill as many Terminators as they possibly can. Let's say they kill 2 Terminators. So here's the dilemma. They're strung out so far. If he kills a unit here, they might fail because of morale, and then they all die. If he kills a unit here, it's over 6 guys. So they're not within coherency because it's 1, 2, 3. 3 of these guys have to be within 2 inches. These guys are fine. But if he kills a guy here, same thing. Now this side's kind of fucked. So he's in a dilemma. He's like, you put on his clock, right? Now he's got to think about what the hell he's going to do. What is he going to do? Most likely he's going to try and kill one of these guys, maybe this guy over here, because he's going to try and do some damage to these guys. Now let's say we kill 1 Terminator, because most of the time we might kill 1 to 2. So he has to fight first because he's Slaanesh. So now he gets to fight before this unit, or if he wants to spend 2 CP, he fights before that unit if he's not Slaanesh. So he then has to consolidate towards the closest enemy unit. So he's going to measure out. This unit, like let's say this guy is 7 inches away. This guy is 7 inches away. So this guy right here has to choose, is he going this way or this way? He's closer this way. So these guys have to spread this way. So this half of the unit has to consolidate this way. This half of the unit has to consolidate this way. So now he's not going to be able to get as many attacks because of this. So he's going to try and pile in ½ of an inch, ½ of an inch, ½ of an inch. Now if, let's say this guy can't move, right? Because he's already 2 inches away space, and he's not going to be able to get within ½ inch of this guy. Same thing over here. He's going to pile in ½ an inch. He's going to pile in ½ an inch. He's going to pile into here. He's only going to get 2 guys up here to be able to attack, and he's only going to be able to get 3 guys over here to be able to attack. So let's say this unit that fought second, I put the Sanctuary on because I knew that they're going to get hit more, or I knew that they're going to fight second. So I attack with my weaker unit first when it comes to defensive stats to charge in up there. They get to attack. Now it gets to pile in and fight before me. These 3 guys are going to do their attacks over here. Let's say I save, I don't know, 3 of them. So there's 2 guys that die because they got some chain fists, whatever the fuck they got. And then over here, I only lose 1 guy. So now these 3 guys get to pile in attack. So they're going to pile in ½ of a half. And these 3 guys are going to be able to attack. And let's say I kill another Terminator. Oh, great. Now the morale phase come, he has to remove guys to get back into coherency. So he's kind of fucked. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys. He's got to kill this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy to stay in coherency. And now he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Terminators left out of 10, even though I only killed 2 Terminators. So that's that's the worst case scenario for his situation. Most of the time, he's not going to be as spread out. But even if he's not spread out as much, he's not going to be able to get the full force of the 10-man brick into your guys because you're hitting him from both sides. And that's one of the strategies that work with these huge blobs of Terminators, huge blobs of cultists, just because you know that you can kind of keep them from moving all over the table. Now, if you just attack all of your units on one side, like this, he's going to be able to move in, pile in, get the distance, and kind of get closer to you, and more guys are going to kind of get in to fight your units, which are then going to kill you a lot easier. But if you're able to get that distance and attack from both sides, consolidate, pile in, do whatever you have to do, you're going to be able to steal objectives. You're going to be able to take over zones that you want to take over. You're going to be able to attack and kill guys specifically and force that morale for him to kind of lose more guys and get, you know, a shitty turn because of it. So that's a really good example of something that if you're attacking big units. Here's another thing with pile-in and consolidates. This is kind of general. I'm going to do another video on just general rules. But let's say you're charging this unit right here. This is kind of like a core rule book scenario, but you have to end with an engagement range to successfully make a charge. So if this unit charges in, they have to stay outside of 3 inches from this guy to not get a heroic intervention. So I'm going to measure out and try and stay outside of 3 inches, and I'm going to measure with my little widget 1 inch right here, which is actually pretty far. So I then successfully made the charge. These guys who, again, could stay back and they don't have to be within 3 inches of that guy, when it's my turn, I get to pile in. And if I pile in, it doesn't matter if I'm within 3 inches of that guy or not, because that heroic intervention step is gone, is over. He can't heroic intervention after the heroic intervention stage. So these guys are now all able to pile in, even though one guy got into combat with that unit. And then when this unit's wiped, you can choose to pile into this guy if it's a weaker character or doesn't do a lot of damage in combat. But if he's a beast, you're like, you know what, I'm good. I'm not gonna do that. Here's another strategy. If you really want to do this, you can actually do kind of the same thing, which I completely forgot about. If this unit's chained out again, right, you have the 2 guys, triangle, chained out like this. You can have an interceptor unit over here, 15 inches out of the rhino, right? So they're over here. This half of the unit, right? Let's say you're outside of 4 inches. Sorry, so 3 inches, 4 inches, they're all outside of 4 inches because if they pile in, they can then attack this unit. But let's say you're outside of 4 inches, but they're the closest target. This unit has to consolidate towards the closest target and within closer to the closest target. So since your unit charged in over here, right? So they made that charge this way, you have your guys this way, they can't pile in to the unit that charged them. Half the guys, which are closer to here, have to go closer to this unit. So he's going to be able to pile in up to, these guys are 7 inches away. These guys are 7 inches away. So these 4 guys can pile in, pile in, pile in, and pile in. But he's only going to be able to get to attack with 2 guys. These 7 guys have to end closer to these guys. So if they pile in, they have to kind of go like cockeyed, 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 kind of like this way. Now they can choose to pile into you or, you know, consolidate into you, but then you get to attack. They won't be able to get to attack because you were outside 4 inches. But that's a little strategy where you're using the general rules to kind of stop him from getting closer to your guys or getting more attacks onto your guys. Because technically, these 3 guys could have been able to get 3 inches closer to attack these guys, but he can't because of this little, you know, even 1 or 2 man unit over here. You have to end closer to the closest target. So that is a great little strategy when it comes to placement. With the Grey Knights, it kind of helps with our surgical precision and knife kind of attacks where you want to use them as a, you know, glass cannon to kind of go out and kill a unit and not really get hit as much in return because we will die. All right, guys, so I wanted to keep this going, so we're going to keep going the tactical video, and I want to kind of show little deployment scenarios, the Blades of Victory strats, what you want to be doing for secondary, stuff like that. So we we ran back down to the garage, outfit change, and I wanted to get some more recording, because after the video that we posted a couple days ago about the how to build Grey Knights video, we did this right after that one, but there's so much more I needed to talk about, or got more ideas in my head. So if I left anything out, please let me know in the comments below. One of you guys let me know that I forgot about interceptors in my how to build a Grey Knight video, which they're the best unit that we possibly have in our codex. So we're going to go over a lot of kind of tactics and strategies on how to deploy and stuff like that. So this is obviously going to be a little bit longer of a video, but hopefully you like this little setup. So first off, I did the board setup how you would see it as a 9-inch bubble in the center. This is like the 9 inches, and then this is the half board going this way, and this is the half board going that way. So most of the list that we have, probably 99% of the time, we're going to be bringing Foretelling the Locust, which lets you redeploy 3 units. So let's say our list has something like this, where you have the Grandmaster, the Dread Knight, another Dread Knight. Let's say you want to bring 2 Armigers in the list as well. You have a whole bunch of Interceptors, Strikes, the Rhino. The Rhino you're probably not going to be bringing if you have the Armigers, just because of points. But we're going to run one with the Armigers and one without the Armigers. So the first one we'll do without the Armigers, because I want to show you what the Rhino can do. Drago, Tech Priest, and Libby. All right. So first off, Libby most of the time is going to be in Deep Strike. I love putting a unit of Strikes into Deep Strike as well, just so that way they can come down either on an objective, they can come down in your backfield if you don't have a lot of units left. They can come in on the excuse me, the other edge. For engage, or they can kind of just, you know, protect the librarian if you really need to protect the librarian. So first, you can't redeploy the Grandmaster. So almost all the time, let's say we're running Blades of Victory, I'm going to be putting him within range of whatever I want to see first, most likely. So he's usually my last drop to come down. So when I drop him down, I really want to drop him aggressively, but also defensively. So if I want to back him up 6 inches, right? So right about here, I don't really want to get shot by a lot of stuff. So I'll start him out 6 inches further than here, which is right about there. Now, it really doesn't matter if you're on the terrain feature or not, because you get a pregame move. And then you want your core unit that you're going to be moving up as far forward as you possibly can. So I'm going to be putting these guys kind of like on the bottom floor. They're usually always on the bottom floor, but you want them to be at least 9 inches away from your Grandmaster. So then you want Drago to be pretty far forward, like right about there, so that way he can give the full rerolls to hit to them. And then you can put a Tech Priest back here, and then a Dread Knight back here. All right, you got your little servitors. They're going back here to protect the Tech Priest. You probably have another 1 or 2 units of Interceptors here. You might have a Strike unit in here as well. And then the Rhino is most likely going to be right there. You guys can see it's literally right here, right behind those Interceptors, 1 inch away from the wall. So that's really how I'm going to be deploying. You can't see the Rhino because it's a first floor line of sight blocking, but that's an example of a small Blades of Victory list that how you're going to be deploying. Now let's say you go first. So first off, you're going to be pregame moving 6 inches. So I'm going to want my Grandmaster to pregame move 6 inches, which he can either go, you know, this way to try get on objective over there and get line of sight to his backfield, or you can go kind of diagonal this way, right, to kind of go again more that way to be more aggressive. Now this unit also gets to move up 6 inches, so they're going to move up 6 inches, which puts you pretty far forward. So it puts you up to usually the objective, which is right about here. And then you want to make sure that one of your guys right here is at least 6 inches away from Drago. So you have a 6 inch span right there from Drago. Now again, this is you going first. So I'm within 6 inches of Drago. So now turn 1, you're going to go in your command phase. Drago is going to give them full rerolls to hit, which you're going to have a little token for. So you put your full rerolls to hit on those guys, and then that's it. You start the turn 1. So turn 1, these guys are going to hop up 12 inches, which gets you right to about there. Now, if we measure the 9-inch bubble for their zone, their 9 inches is basically right there. So you're 2 inches away from their zone already on turn 1, which then you hop up. Now again, you're infantry, so you're going to be able to go through these walls, but I usually keep one guy on the objective, so that way he can cast the secondary to take Purify Ritual. So he's going to be casting Purify Ritual. You're going to be putting Drago 18 inches away from that squad, which right now he's about 18 inches away. The Grand Master is going to move up 9 inches, so he can either be kind of more defensively going up this way, 9 inches, getting on that objective in this corner. Then he has line of sight to almost everything over on this side of the table. Or he can go kind of in the center and be just more of a bully up this way. But he's not going to be able to get line of sight on a lot of stuff because most of the time he's going to be hiding stuff. I like to use him as get line of sight, so that way he can get an 18-inch cast, which is usually right about to there. So you can cast on a enemy model right there, which is going to be Empiric Amplification. So that way, this guy, this dude that just got +1 to hit from your Tech Priest, he can either shunt for 2 CP, which gets you, up to here on this objective, within 6 inches of your Grandmaster, so that way he can get full rerolls to hit 1. Then he can get that line of sight on the guy that, or the unit that you Empiric Amplified. And then, if you have another Dread Knight, let's say this guy's a Dread Knight back here that you started on the table, he can get gated from Drago, which gates him, really anywhere on the board, but he's going to be gated right here. And since they're taller than 5 inches, they can see through the second floor of that building. So all these guys, right, he hits on 2s, he reroll 1s, he hits on 2s. So basically this little castle right here, you now control that side of the table. Over here, these guys are casting Purify Ritual in the center. You're going to have 1 Purify Ritual go off over there, and then you're going to have 1 Purify Ritual go off in there. So if you get all 4 Purify Rituals, it's going to be 4 points turn 1. If one of these 2 guys over here gets a kill, which most likely they will, that's going to be 5 points for Teleport Assault. And then if you take Engage or Behind Enemy Lines, you're going to be able to get Behind Enemy Lines 3 points, which is going to be these Interceptors. So the Interceptors are going to be able to charge, so you get your charge off. You then charge, getting, in their deployment zone, and let's say whatever you wanted to kill, you're going to kill. So then they get to pile in. So they're going to pile in to make sure that they're all completely within the opponent's deployment zone. And you can also block pathway, so they can't get past your guys unless they have fly or any ability that ignores that. So they have a 4 invuln save. They have the reroll all hits, and they're just a little tanky unit. So that is like the first turn that I usually do for Blades of Victory. Now it could be any deployment zone or any side of the table that you really want to take over. You can go more this way if he has a lot of units in that back corner that you can see better, or if he has a lot of units going that way, you can see, and do it that way. So that is one example of the Blades of Victory. If you are having Armigers, they're coming in turn 1 because I'm running the Guardian ability. So let's say this is the zone, and you either took Engage, which you'd get 3 for Engage because you'd have all 4 quarters. These guys would come in most likely over here, which you can't see on the thing, but they're going to be coming in over here. Let's say this is the right side of the table. They're going to be walking in over here to get line of sight, or they can come up where your dreads were up in this left corner, which is going to be up that way. And those guys over there in the top left corner, let me move this down so you guys can actually see. So these guys over here, right, are going to have straight line of sight to really anything on this side of the table. So if they're coming in over there, see how crazy that deployment turn 1 zone could be? They walk in over here, and then they can shoot all the way down this side 60 inches to basically see the entire backfield. Now let's move them up top here. So we're going to move them in over on this side within 6 inches. And now this side over here. So they're coming in over there, and then they have the entire right side of the table, or left side on this end, left side of the table to shoot through. So they walk in over here, and then they have all of this that they're going to be able to see going through the shots, obviously, or the forest, but they're going to be able to put a lot of shots on any tanks or any like units that are back in this zone. Plus you have your engaged targets. So these guys are getting your engaged for you, and also they're just kind of like blocking out this side of the table. So you have their OPSEC, so next turn they're going to be able to walk up on the objective and kind of, you know, either do sticky objective or just kind of camp on the objective, which will be 10 models OPSEC on the objective. But besides that, these guys are going to be doing their job, which is going to be coming in over there. All right, guys, I wanted to record on the phone real quick and add that at the end, but the Armigers, when you see the whole table, when you come in from reserves, you can't come in their deployments or their deployment edge, which is over there, but you can come in on this side, you can come in on that side, or you can come in on your own deployment zone within 6. Here's a little thing that not a lot of people play or know as, but since this is their deployment zone, you cannot come in within 6 inches of their deployment zone, but you can still come in this way of their deployment zone and be within 6 inches. Now, this only works on turn 3 because you're able to come in their deployment zone. Their edge, you can never come in on this edge, but you can come in this edge, which still counts coming in within 6 inches of this table field edge, not this table field edge. So again, that only works on turn 3 because of their deployment zone. So their deployment zone goes up to 30 inches or 22 inches, which are here. So you can come in right here within 6 inches, toe the forest, so that way you don't suffer the penalty, and then shoot from that way. Now this is really close. This is kind of like a suicide mission, so I wouldn't really be coming over here. I most likely would be coming in back here and shooting from 60 inches away. So if I'm shooting this way, I come in turn 1 from this table field edge within 6 inches, however far you want to come in, and then you get, you know, your 2 Armigers shooting anything on that side of the table that's out or in cover, but it's like barely showing up over there. So that is a good little, you know, turn 1 strategy. If you need to come in on this side, because you have a really good line of sight back here, you can walk in turn 1 and then shoot that little angle over that way if they have a unit out there, or a unit poking out, whatever it may be. Or you do our boy over here and come in on this side, which again, that's that table field edge, but you can still come in 6 inches this table field edge and still be within that. So make sure that you read it properly, because that is exactly how it's supposed to be worded. Then you shoot basically everything down that side of the table. So if you have both of your Armigers coming in on this side, right, you have 4d3 shots coming in straight 60 inches, which is the entire table edge, and shooting anything on that side of the table. So if they have a bunch of precious guys over there, they're going to be shot turn 1. And that's why using these guys with the Mysterious Guardian, I think, is the best way to run them compared to just getting +1 to hit or +1 to wound. So the surprise attack, with how fast Grey Knights already are, you're going to have engaged pretty much easily, and you're going to be able to kind of like shoot and do the first blood kill almost every single time. Okay guys, let's reset that. So what we're going to do now is let's pretend we didn't go first with Blades of Victory. So if you're not going first with Blades of Victory, you get to be more defensive. The units that you put out aggressively, let's say we put in a unit of Interceptors right on this line, we put another unit of Interceptors right on this line, and we put a Dread Knight, let's say, up in this corner because he wanted to get in the center to do the Purify Ritual. So we're then going to redeploy that one Dread Knight back here defensively. We're going to redeploy those Interceptor squads over here defensively, and we're going to redeploy that one Interceptor squad maybe in reserves, or we can put them in defensively as well behind this building. So now your other units, because you redeploy 3, we're going to move these guys their pregame move 6 inches. So this guy's going to back up 6 inches, and then these guys are going to back up 6 inches behind the wall where they started originally in the last video. So they're all going to back up. And now these guys are behind cover, safe, and also everybody else is behind cover. So basically, you're not going to have a lot of shots onto your targets because you're redeploying 3, and you also pregame move 2 of your units back. So you're going to essentially redeploy your entire army. So that's why it's so tricky with Grey Knights to try and catch them off guard, because you're going to have usually the Alpha Strike, or if you go second, you're going to be able to get where you want to go because of how fast we are. So if this is turn 1, he's spreading out, he's doing whatever you got to do. You have a unit that's not in the Rhino. You have 2 units that are in the Rhino. Turn 1, you're going to be able to buff up the Interceptors if you want them to go out and kill something. Let's say he puts a unit on the center objective. You can then just hop them out 12 inches and get them onto the center objective. You can hop out you guys from the Rhino 15 inches. Let's say 15 inches is going to get you all the way out to here. So you guys that are in this Rhino are getting out to right about here. And then that objective, which is 15 inches in right here. So they're going to be most likely on this objective or somewhere near the objective. You're going to have let's say an 8 or 9 inch charge that you can put a Blaze of Victory spell in them. That gets them free reroll charges. But see how far that is? Now if we're going up this way, 15 inches from here is from the Rhino all the way up to here. So if you needed that extra 3-inch space, the unit that was on the ground, they don't have to go out because they're only going to go 12 inches. The guys inside will be able to go out, and then the guys that are on the ground can actually go back in the Rhino. The difference is you won't be able to give them the full rerolls to hit, but the full rerolls to hit can go on Dread Knight instead. So if Drago wants to give the Dread Knight full rerolls to hit instead of the Interceptors, that's your call, that's your decision. Whichever one you think is going to be more beneficial to you for the rerolls to hit is going to be going there. Most of the time you might be putting it on the Interceptor squad because then you could do the 1 CP strat to do Cybolt ammunition. So they're going to get full rerolls with Cybolt ammunition, which is AP1, 6 is auto wound, or and then in combat they're going to be able to reroll all hits anyway. So that's just a really good Blades of Victory combo. So that's kind of how you're redeploying and deploying your units almost every single game. Is you want to deploy aggressively with 3 units that you know are going to be taken back. So what I mean by that is you might deploy 1 unit Interceptor there, 1 unit Interceptor there, and 1 Dread Knight right here. So that way you can get line of sight to their guys over in that corner. Now, if you don't go first, you just redeploy to safety. But let's say you do go first, now you have the opportunity to redeploy more guys. If this was a regular Dread Knight, I can redeploy this Dread Knight over here and be more aggressively. I can redeploy the Interceptor squad that was in this building up here. So now I have 2 Interceptor squads hopping into this building. So turn 1 for Grey Knights is huge for us because our Interceptors move 12. Let's say we have a unit there and a unit there turn 1. We go first turn. This guy is going to hop up 12 inches onto the objective, which is right there. This guy's going to hop over 12 inches, which is over here. Now, if this guy needs to run because you're not going to be able to get banners, you run an extra 5 inches just so you can cast Purify Ritual. So this guy's over here is doing Purify Ritual. That guy over there is doing a banner. The guy over here is doing banner. And then you have Purify Ritual here, there, there, and there. So potentially getting 5 points for Purifying Ritual turn 1. Potentially getting 2 banners instantly. Potentially getting a banner if you wanted to gate another unit over here. But that's kind of like how fast we can be on turn 1. This guy could be gated over to here or gated over to here. So that way you have 1 banner going down and a Purify Ritual on that squad. Then you have your Grandmaster that can either shunt or gate or wherever hell you want to go. But most of the time he's going to be kind of back here, buffing up the other Dread Knights and shooting from 30 inches away. Cool. So that is how fast and quick you want to be turn 1. Here's a really good but a strategy that I've been doing for Purify Ritual for a while now is if you're trying to be very defensive and not get shot off the board, you basically just hop out a unit to right about here and you want to kind of be defensive, so you want to stay behind this cover right here. So you put 1 guy on the objective, the other 4 guys are over here in case you fail or you don't get the gate off. But you get 1 guy right there, 1 guy on the objective that's barely towing on. He's getting cover because he's within 1 inch of the crates, and everybody else is behind the crates. They're going to try and cast Purify Ritual. So when they cast Purify Ritual, you're usually going to cast them last because you want them to use their denies on everything else. So they're going to try and cast Purify Ritual. You try and get Purify Ritual off, or roll 2 dice. Look at that. So we got Purify Ritual off. And then once Purify Ritual goes off, you're going to gate them with a character that you have that has gate in the back. So if you have gate back here, and he's outside of 24 inches, you're going to try and gate. There you go, gate goes off. You then gate these guys back here. Now why do you do that? It's because you're not going to try and spend 120 points to get 1 point victory point. Because they would probably die if they stay out there, whether it be to shooting or to somebody other charges. But you want to put Sanctuary on them to try and keep them as live as possible. But also you want to gate them. Because if they go out and they get you, let's say that center, this point, and then that point, that's 3 points, which gets you 4 points for Purifying Ritual. If I can get that every single turn, you're going to max it out pretty easily. And that's kind of how you keep your guys defensively and get Purifying Ritual in the center objective. So now the center objective is open. That's fine. We still have our 8 points on these 2 objectives, and we're probably going for the tertiary, whether it be putting bombs down, killing people, taking over objectives, whatever it may be, whatever the tertiary aspects can. You want to be focusing on the primary, which is 8 points, and then the tertiary to make sure you're trying to get out 45 points for the primary. And then obviously all your secondaries, you're doing that throughout the game. The secondaries that we're trying for are Teleport Assault, Purify Ritual, and most likely Banners. Banners, I'm going to be able to at least get 2 on these 2, which leads to 10. And then towards later in the game, you're able to put down more Banners and get more points. Or if you want to do Purify Ritual, Teleport Assault, and Engage, you want to make sure you have guys in at least 3 quarters every single time. That'll get you 10 points. Get behind enemy lines, which you want to make sure you're at least getting 3 to 4 turns every single time, which is going to give you 3, 3, 3, and then maybe a 4 here and there. So you want to make sure that your secondaries are what you're going to be focused on while building your list. So we went over that in the last video, so go check that out. But that was a really good strategy that I've been using for a while, is putting a unit out on the center and then gating them the fuck away to safety so that we don't lose 120 points just for 1 victory point. If you fail gate, I'm going to try and reroll that gate just so I don't lose those guys. So that 1 CP would be a huge. Divination makes it so much easier because Divination gets you an extra CP every single turn, potentially, so that we can use that extra CP to roll a failed save. Alright guys, and again, thanks for clicking on the video. Hopefully you learned a lot from this session, but this is going to be my last point, which is going to be in a general video, tactical video for getting better at 40k. So if you guys really want to get better at this game at 40k, there's going to be a lot of small details that you're going to be learning in the one video that's coming up. The one video is going to be hopefully done before 10th edition comes out. I'm going to try and do it as soon as possible so that way you can use the rules to your advantage, and hopefully they don't change as much in 10th edition. But with Grey Knights, the secret that I've been doing that made me so successful in 2022 to get to that top, competitive level with Grey Knights is making sure you trade point values. So when I have point values of, let's say my Grandmaster, he's 235 points right now, 230 points. I have a Dread Knight that is 185 points. I have my Interceptors at 120 points. And then I have my Strikes at 100 points. My characters, Dragos at 165. My Librarians at 110 maybe. But I'm trying to trade points. So somebody in one of the videos asked, there's a lot of screening in the backfield with the Dread Knights and stuff like that. So yes, I do have my Dread Knights in the back because they do shoot 30 inches. So they're shooting super, super far, right? Pretty reliably. And if I'm shooting 30 inches away, I'm not really afraid of the assault because they're so far away. Once they get closer, I just back up. So that's kind of the whole goal. Now, if a guy dies, anytime you play me, or if I'm playing Keebler or one of the local Cuddle Buddies, I always ask them, how many points is that unit? I want to know how many points is that unit that just killed my unit, so that way I know if it's an even trade. So if my guys are coming out and I'm launching them as bullets from this Rhino, they're hopping out 15 inches, right? So on turn 1, let's say I'm hopping out. Let's say he has a character on the other side of this building. So let's say that this character, which is a buffing character that they have, let's say that character is 105 points, right? He's cool. He left them on the building because he wants to get something off on his turn. I'm going to charge that character, try and kill that character. And I'm going to keep on the objective. So let's say I killed the character. Let's say the character in return killed one of my guys, whatever it may be. That character was 105 points. My Interceptors are 120 points. My Interceptors got me the kill, took away some of the buffs, and I'm holding the center objective, which is probably blocking out his guys from behind the wall. So if they consolidate like this, block out, block out, block out, and where'd my last guy go? He's over there. So my fourth guy right here. So they're basically blocking out this little zone right here. And 2 inches away. So they're blocking that where my guys have to go, or where their guys have to go around my guys to get through here, which is impassable. But you have to walk all the way around or walk around this way to try and steal the objective. That little movement and killing the character was worth 120 points to me. If the character was even more, obviously you traded up. Dread Knights, same thing. If my Dread Knight's 185 points, I need to make sure he's killing at least 185 points on the enemy team to make it worth it. If he dies without killing anything, obviously it's not a good thing to have. So you want to try and make that points up. So essentially you have to kill 360 points to make that up worth another Dread Knight, which is going to be really hard. So you have to combine a lot of stuff to do that. So that is my mental math anytime I'm playing the game, is I want to make sure that I'm trading units with other units that are equal or higher values. if I use my 185 point dread to kill a 30 point unit, it's not really worth it to do that. If I have guys coming in from deep strike, let's say it's a librarian with strikes, that's a 200 point combo. I want them to come down and nuke a character that's worth 200 points or near enough when it comes to buffing their units. If I kill a chaplain that gives +2 to charges, or a Feel No Pain or full rerolls, that's a huge buff. That's worth at least 120 points plus whatever buffs you think is worth in your head. So that right there is a really good trade when I bring in my Libya and my strikes. So that's something that has been working for me with every army that I play, is no matter what kind of list I'm using, I want to make sure I'm trading evenly, if not trading up. Now, a lot of people will just say trade up. Well, that's kind of the definition of what they mean, is you want to be able to trade equally, if not more. And that's actually going to make you a better player and more keen on what you're trying to kill throughout the game. You don't want to just table the opponent. You want to win on points. I've gotten tabled before, but I won on points because I traded where I wanted to trade and make sure that I traded evenly for the points that I'm trying to get. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. If you guys have any questions about it, definitely put in the comments or go over to Discord and let me know. All right, guys, and that was the first tactical video for our Grey Knights. Again, I'm going to be running another one when 10th edition comes out. But these are a lot of the strategies that I've been doing almost every single game when it comes to little tricks and kind of stuff that Grey Knights can do and make them super fast across the table, as well as the secondaries that you really want to focus on in the game. So we're going to be doing a how to build a Grey Knight list. If you guys haven't seen that, it'll be posted up on the video. But if you guys are new to the channel, or you just like the 40k in general and you want more tactical videos, there's going to be a lot of general tactical videos coming up. I'm going to try and produce them as soon as possible because 10th edition is right around the corner. I do have to give a shout out to my Patreons. Thank you guys. Your dirtbags are fucking awesome. If you guys want to go support the channel, you like what we do, or you want to join the Dirtbag Nation, definitely head over to the Patreon. And also, if you guys are interested in some merch, we got a lot of stuff coming up. We have the objective markers, which are going to be kind of like this, except it has our own designs, which are going to be on the website, Facebook. And also they're going to be posted onto the Discord. We have dice coming out. That's going to be coming out probably this month. So I know I have a lot of pre-orders. They sold out within 2 hours last time we had them. We ordered a shit ton more. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely head over to Discord so that way you can place some orders. And we got stickers. Everybody likes stickers. We got stickers literally like everywhere. They're going to be the same pictures as going to be on the 3D6 Wargaming placemats, which we are going to be sponsored in the next couple of days. So that's going to be posting up on the YouTube channel as well. So appreciate all you guys. Thanks for clicking on the video. Let me know in the comments what you guys liked, didn't like. Head over to Discord if you guys want to give some video suggestions. We're going to be posting a lot of videos coming up to try and get them out as soon as possible before 10th edition comes out, so you guys can actually use these tactics to your advantage and hopefully win some 40k games and boost that Grey Knight statistic up as much as possible. So guys, appreciate it. Thanks for clicking on the video, and we'll see you in another video soon.